sir.
Thanks, Greg. And thank you, everyone, for having me here in Charlotte. I'm a West Coast guy. I'm based out of Seattle, so it's a little early for me, but I'm excited to be here. So I wanted to start off. I wanted to say welcome to you, and I want to hear it back from you. I want to see what we can do from a crowd perspective. We're live on the web. We've got NASCAR next door with their meeting. I'd like to see if we can kind of bring the energy up, raise the roof a little bit, and let NASCAR know we're here, as well as everyone on the web that the VMUG in Charlotte is excited about virtualization and cloud computing. So I'd like to say welcome. All right, so we're slow this morning. I know you did the pre-Cinco de Mayo last night, right? You had the pre-margaritas and whatnot getting prepped for tonight. So let's try it again, and let's see if we can do better. If we don't do better, maybe I'll start giving incentives away. So welcome. That's pretty good. I want to try one more time, and I'm going to give an incentive away. I told Ken just a minute ago I was going to put him on the spot. So I am going to give an iPad 2. I don't have it in my possession, but we will get your name and contact information. We'll get it to you within the next week, right? And Kenton right here is one of the leads in our professional services organization, so he'll hold me to it. He's local, so I'm looking to see who can be the loudest in saying welcome, and the person who's the loudest will be getting an iPad 2. All right, this is the easiest contest you've ever had because you don't got to go get your badge stamped and you don't get spam mail for the rest of your life. All right. You just give your contact info to Kenton, and he'll spam you for the rest of your life. So, on 3, see who can be the loudest, and I'm looking to see who's the loudest. And that person is the winner, all right? 1, 2, 3. Oh, dude. All right. All right. Wow. All right. To be honest, yeah, I think we have a tie, and that's tough because I don't know how to split an iPad, so I'm going to have to come up with 2. So I think the gentleman over here with the beard, with the very good wingspan, I'm telling you what, the Charlotte Bobcats, you could be one of their guys because you got the wingspan right there. So that gentleman there, if you can meet with Kenton later on, and the gentleman right here in the second row. So the 2 of you, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And hopefully I won't put you to sleep in the next 45 minutes or so. But I am really excited to be here. I've been with VMware for 10 years. So when I started, we were a very small company selling our workstation product over the internet. And when I would come knocking on any of your doors, you guys would tell me to go away. All right, so it's very exciting to be here today. And to kick it off, I wanted to show you just briefly a little bit about the company and what we've accomplished in the last 10 years. We've gone from $20 million a year to $2.9 billion, so it's pretty phenomenal. And the reality is, it's on the backs of the folks in this room and the folks like you in other communities across North America and really the globe. All right, and if it wasn't for you taking a risk on this new technology called virtualization over the last 10 years, VMware wouldn't be in the state it is today. And we wouldn't have the opportunity to innovate and help transform IT and drive services. So the cloud computing, era, if you will, that has kicked off and will continue to drive over the next decade is only because of what you guys have done over the previous decade. And it's very exciting. VMware obviously has $3.7 billion in cash, and we've got a great vision and strategy around cloud computing that I want to share with you today. We're very focused on building best-of-breed technologies that help drive innovation and efficiency in IT, which allows you to bring better agility to the business and differentiate. And really, IT has been providing great value to business over the last 20, 30 years, but now you can actually help lead the business and lead how there's revenue growth within the business. You can help make those determinations and be part of the strategy versus a line of business coming to you and saying, hey, we want to do X, and then you have to go figure out how we do it. Right? So very exciting. Our last quarter was our greatest quarter ever at $844 million. And again, I want to say thank you to all of you for that, because we serve you, and without you, we wouldn't have success. So now on to the innovation that you are driving around VMware. And first off, I wanted to talk a little bit about the market trends, which are part of what goes into us really building out our vision and strategy. It's the market trends and then working with each of you every day. So the two things that are on top of mind that we're hearing from both the CIOs, yourselves, and the analysts is virtualization and cloud computing. And Gartner has put VMware in the upper right-hand corner around virtualization. As the market leader, we've got over 85% of the virtual machines that are running in the enterprise are on VMware. We're very excited about that, and we believe we can add additional value to you in the data center, not just driving down CapEx, but also OpEx, and providing agility and innovation as you go along. So on the cloud side, a lot of people hear about VMware, and they think about VMware, and they think about us around the infrastructure space. But the reality is we have a full vision and strategy across IT throughout the stacks, from end-user computing, application development, and application management. And that's what I want to share with you today. Here you can see Gartner has clearly called out some very thoughtful service providers around cloud, and the ones we've highlighted up here in the upper right-hand corner all are based on VMware. The infrastructure is driven around VMware, and the application management is now being established and being driven from VMware. So again, part of the sweeping change, if we think about it and why it's happening, is we've evolved business services and became much more efficient with serving business process and automating business process. We've also automated IT process, but not as efficiently and not as in line with business process. So what I mean by that is we can image servers today, and we can do it fairly quickly. But from a business process perspective, you can take your phone, you can take an iPad, you can take a laptop, and you can approve a purchase order, right? Very simply. You can create digital signatures so that you can get a contract out very quickly. So a lot of the business process, we've done a tremendous job of automating and simplifying, but the IT process, we haven't quite got there yet. So procuring servers and provisioning systems still take weeks, sometimes months. And the reality is we have the capability to do it in minutes, and many customers do it in minutes. So those are the type of things that VMware's focused on, is automating IT process, simplifying IT process, and in a sense, allowing you to control all of IT, but empower the lines of business to consume IT. And empower them to pick and choose what they want to run, when they want to run it, but you maintain control of where they run it, how long they run it, what the service levels are, and if it's decommissioned or not. Because quite frankly, a lot of data centers have got cluttered with application workloads that aren't used. I was talking to a customer the other day, they got 3,000 applications, and as they go through their application rationalization, they're realizing that they can probably turn off at least 1,000 of those 3,000 applications. We had one customer who was heavy into virtualization, but they were running out of power in their data center. So they brought in another power circuit, and as the company was installing the other power circuit, they accidentally cut the existing power circuit, and all their systems crashed. So they had 750 servers that crashed. There were 285 virtual machines. They were able to get them up in 24 hours. Of the other environments, of the 750 servers, 40 of them never came back up. And of those 40, they realized that they didn't need any of them. None of them were being used. So again, we have a lot of clutter. We have a lot of unnecessary applications in the data center. And in order for IT to control and flush those out, we need to be able to properly manage the consumption of IT services, of applications, utilization of systems, et cetera. And by moving to a cloud model, you have that control, and you can monitor and manage that in real time through our tools and provide that back to the lines of business. and even charge them for it. So if they want to take up space, like storing boxes in your garage, you can lease that space to them for that purpose. So the real value of cloud, right? We talk about it a lot. We're going to talk about it for the next hour. There's some great sessions here this week. If you're not going to start your Cinco de Mayo happy hour until after 5 o'clock, I highly suggest you go to the Mike DiPetrella session. I think it's around 3:30. He's our top cloud architect at VMware, very thoughtful individual, been here for 9 years. He has gone and built the clouds with the service providers that you saw on the slide there, AT&T, Verizon, Terramark. Mike is the guy, and he's here for you. I highly recommend you get some time with him and learn from him, because he's brilliant. But and he'll tell you that cloud's very powerful and it's very sexy, and that's why CIOs are coming to you saying, hey, we got to do something around cloud. But it can be also very dangerous. And we had this conversation last night with a customer that, hey, the ideal state you could set up for cloud, you could potentially never get there. And that's the danger, right? Is you can look at all the business and technical requirements, and you can create something that you can never achieve, right? And we see it in our own lives. We see it in industries. The car industry is a perfect example, where they try to create this ideal car that drives 300 miles an hour, that elevates above traffic lights, that you get ultimate fuel economy. You never have to fill it up. And the reality is it never happens. So if we're not careful with how you plan your IT transformation and you plan your strategy around cloud, you can get caught in an environment where you've thrown $200 million into a project and nothing comes out. And all of you probably lived it before with different applications that a line of business has wanted to produce, and had lofty goals and really hadn't thought through it and put a good implementation plan in place to ultimately deliver it. So cloud is real. It's happening today. Our customers have been using it for a long time. We actually built clouds 10 years ago with a couple customers. We just didn't know they were clouds until now. So we called them automated provisioning, dynamic provisioning, elastic utility computing. That's what we called it back then, and now we're calling it cloud. So here's a couple examples of some of the value that some of our customers have got. There's a large manufacturing company in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and they have a process within their manufacturing where they have to do a bunch of software testing, and they have to re-provision the systems. And by instituting our solution just for that one testing cycle, we were able to accelerate testing by 30 days. So 30 days allowed them to GA their product 30 days sooner. And I'm not giving company names because we're live online, otherwise I would, but the value there to them was they got $30 million 30 days in advance of when they would normally. So again, the projection for the first month of this new product in market was $30 million, and they brought that forward by 30 days. So a tremendous value overall to the business by simplifying a single process within a manufacturing line. And we did it through a simple automated process of automating and provisioning virtual machines for development and test. So some great value you can get out of moving to a cloud model. But again, I highly suggest you think it through and invest the time with some folks who have done it before to get the best practices from them. So on to the VMware solution and strategy, and what we see is really it's all about applications and users. So it's all about information and users. Users want more information so they can make better decisions within the business. And the challenge today is taking existing applications, existing data types and data repositories, and bringing them forward while building new applications and adopting the alternatives that are out there today. So getting the legacy apps, the new internal developed apps, and then the apps that are offered as services and stitching them all together. The other piece is users are using several different devices to get that information. And so in a sense, the desktop PC has been pulled apart, and now we have smartphones that we use for email and calendaring. We now have tablets that we use for some of the applications, and more devices are coming into market. So we have end users who want access to information and data anywhere. They have a whole proliferation of devices they want to access it from. And then we also have the cost of the data center. And we have this thing going on right now where public clouds are offering infrastructure services at a very low cost. And there's also lots of risk. There's lots of legal ramifications that have to be thought through. However, cost is the driver. And because of the low cost and the agility, several folks are reaching out into that space. One story in that space is a software development company in Redmond, Washington, and it's not the big one in Redmond, it's a smaller one. They have a development and test cloud, and they have one individual that serves over 500 developers worldwide. And he's got his own little self-service portal where they can go in and select certain templates and provision them out themselves. And then if they need custom environments, they request it and he'll provision the custom requirements. Well, one of the developers called him 4 weeks ago and said, hey, I can't get to my code, I can't get to my systems. And he said, well, where are they? What's the name of them? I'll look them up in in our environment. And he gave him the names of them, and he goes, well, they're not in my environment. I don't see them anywhere here. And he's like, oh, no. I use some small company over the internet, and I bought some time on a couple of their servers to get these Ubuntu Linux systems running. And he's like, well, I can't help you with that. You have to go call them. So basically, he missed his deadline, which caused them to slip a couple more weeks in a phase 1 of development, because he had gone out and rented a web server and a LAMP stack from a small cloud provider, and their systems were down. And he couldn't get his code, and he couldn't get his code out to check it into the source tree so that they could do their smoke test and build their next rev. So it ultimately took 2 weeks to finally get it out of these systems and back into their environment. So again, one of the challenges we face is data in multiple locations, applications of different types, and bringing it all together. So this is where VMware is very focused, and our roadmap for the next 3 to 5 years is all around providing simplicity in this space. So to start, we really view it from 3 different levels. We have 3 areas of focus. One, again, is end-user computing and managing users and providing them access to data and applications that they need to be efficient and productive in their jobs, and providing that to any device. Next is, how do we take not just legacy applications and data, but how do we modernize legacy applications? How do we take legacy data and move it into a modern environment so we can quickly create new applications to leverage that information and bring applications forward quickly to market, which again provides agility on the business side. And then, of course, evolving the infrastructure. Our customer base has done a tremendous job of virtualizing. The majority of our customers are between 30 and 75% virtualized. Mean average is about 54% virtualized. But virtualization in itself is not evolving the infrastructure. It's one component of it. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the other components that you can evolve within the infrastructure to provide even greater efficiency and utilization of the systems, as well as better optimize the management and drive OpEx down. Now, when I say greater efficiency, today, those customers that have virtualized between 30 and 75%, the utilization of their systems is around 30%. So when everyone got into virtualization, and the real momentum started around 2003, 2004, and server consolidation was extremely exciting and compelling at the time, customers were running between 5 and 10% utilization on their servers. So they virtualized. So that first phase, that server consolidation, first phase of virtualization, has got the servers up to about 30% utilized. Automating management, driving optimization in private cloud, drives that utilization to 80%. Right? So there's another CapEx savings to have within the infrastructure to get better efficiency, as well as an OpEx savings. So to start, on the desktop side, again, the demand is, I've got all these devices, right? You saw how many folks were excited for a tablet device that they could use for work purposes only, and not Angry Bird. But these devices, right, they're out of the control of IT, they're out of the control of the company because the CFO and the CEO have them, right? And they can't say that they're going to get them and that IT is going to support them and no one else is going to get them. So there's a lot of challenge around the diversity of devices. There's also, as we become more globally connected, there's more and more third parties that are a core piece of your business. So not only do you have internal staff, but you have all these third parties that have to access your systems, need data, are collaborating with you on a daily basis, and they need access. And again, they're going to have their own devices. So we have this diverse set of applications, we have this diverse set of access points, as well as devices that we have to work with. And of course, applications are popping up all over the place in different formats, right? The Windows PC era is slowly moving downstream. Right? What I mean by that is today 75% of applications are OS neutral. So you don't need a Windows PC to run those applications. Most applications are browser-based. So again, browser-based applications, OS neutral applications, you can get Angry Bird on an Android or an iPad, right? So we call that OS neutral. Because of that, you no longer need a single device to run your application. They're no longer dependent on the operating environment. And it leads to additional value that you can bring into the environment. So what I'm showing you here is a future state, right? And it's a desired future state that customers like yourselves have been coming to VMware and talking to us about, where a user connects to a portal or runs a client application from whatever device they're on, and based on their identity, you present the applications that they're entitled to. Everything is centrally managed. All applications and provisioning and patching of applications are centrally managed. All user identity is centrally managed. Users now get access, and you present, again, all types of applications, from legacy applications to new applications to SaaS applications to the users. And then based on the device they're connecting with, you present that application to them in a particular format. So if they're connecting from an iPad and they want to run a Windows app, obviously we don't stream that application down, we publish that app to them. And it runs in a virtual machine, a Windows-based virtual machine on the back end. But they can still run those Windows applications, those legacy client apps, from their new devices. SaaS applications, the biggest challenge we see with SaaS applications today is people remembering their passwords. Help desk tickets have increased 5-fold just for password resets around SaaS applications. And the funny thing is that if you go start talking to people and asking them, how are you managing your passwords with your SaaS applications? And so I did a little of that at VMware, and I've done it with a few customers. At VMware, we have 22 SaaS applications. And in the management team, you have a whole bunch of different HR apps that you have to use. And so several managers have said, oh, I've got a Word file on my hard drive, and I just pull it up, and it gives me the URLs to all the SaaS apps and my usernames and passwords. So great, leaves his laptop at the airport, and now anyone has access to all of the SaaS applications that he has entitlement to. And by the way, he has everyone's serial numbers, et cetera, within his access to those SaaS apps. Others have been really creative. They're like, well, because I use a smartphone, an iPad, and a PC, I need to have my usernames, passwords, and URLs on all those devices. And so the one thing I use on all those devices is my calendar. So what I did is I created this appointment in Outlook, And it's just a reoccurring weekly appointment I have on Sunday, and then I put in all the URLs and my usernames and passwords in that appointment. So all I have to do is open my calendar on any of my devices and go to Sunday, and I can see any of my usernames and passwords for my SaaS apps. Really efficient, until he loses one of those devices and someone has all his usernames and passwords. So what this does is, again, this allows you to single sign on to the company portal, and based on your identity, you get all your applications. If you're logging on with a Windows PC and you have permission to run Word or Office locally, and you don't have the current version of Office locally, you double click on the Excel spreadsheet, automatically opens up, and oh, by the way, it streams it down and installs it locally, right? So now you have application updates and you're managing compliance of your applications on local devices. Again, if you're on an iPad and you're clicking into Workday or Salesforce, well, the great thing is you don't go to salesforce.com and have to remember a username and password. You log into the portal, based on your identity, you click on Salesforce, and it tunnels you into salesforce.com, already logged in, single sign-on, so that now you're operating the thing. The value there is the user never knows their username and password for Salesforce or Workday or any of these other SaaS apps, and they don't have to. All they have to do is log into the company portal, and then they have access to all those SaaS applications. The value there is, one, they can't lose usernames and passwords and have others, steal that information. But also, you want to turn them off, you can just deactivate them in AD, and now they can't access the company portal, and all of those SaaS applications are now deactivated as well. So you now have better security and better management of your SaaS applications. So this is the future state. This is where we're going. You'll hear about more of it at VMworld this year. You heard some about it at VMworld last year. We have products in this area that are coming out this year, and then we have a rolling roadmap for that. And just to give you another view of kind of that vision around this is, and this is a little bit more simplistic view, but again, you have your user, and you have all the devices that user can have. You have a policy around that user and what applications they can use and what applications they can use in a local mode, if you will, on those devices versus remote, and then where those applications come from. So again, you may have some applications that are presented and published to them from your private internal cloud. You may have other applications such as SaaS apps that you're redirecting them to once you've identified them and providing security through public offerings. And you may have data stored public offerings, right? Instead of, again, you think of the old model where we had roaming profiles and we had file servers and we're mapping people's home drives to file servers. Now we can provide that data in the cloud, right? We can now have them stored, and whether it's a private cloud or a public cloud, they're storing that information in securely through your desktop as a service portal. And then, of course, in some environments, you could be provisioning an entire desktop for a specific type of user. So that's not here today. That's the future. There's, again, products coming this year, products coming next year. Got a roadmap, a 3 to 5 year roadmap for that. What can you do this year in the desktop space? You can focus on specific use cases where a virtual desktop will provide tremendous value to your business. And again, it's not every use case. There's only specific use cases you want to focus on. These are some of them, and we're definitely here to help provide you more information and help guide you along this journey. But to start taking your legacy applications and moving them forward so that you can start leveraging them in this type of an environment, rapid provisioning, rapid deployment of systems, this is where we are today. Now, the next piece of our strategic stack, if you will, is the cloud application platform. And this is one we've invested very heavily over the last couple years. And the reason for it is we saw a trend changing in application development and developers using frameworks and tools to quickly develop applications. But those applications require application services such as runtime environments, data services, etc. So we've built a platform that, one, provides tools and frameworks for several of the open source frameworks that are out there today, and a platform to run these new applications on that provides great scale and leverages the VMware Cloud Infrastructure Platform, vSphere, and is optimized for vSphere. So you get multiple granular areas within vSphere that'll provide some value. So one is just in how we use memory and leveraging memory in Java applications. And the other space is around the auto provisioning of apps into the environment, and of course the monitoring of the applications in the infrastructure. So this is a huge focus of us. You just probably heard we acquired WaveMaker about a month ago. There's more acquisitions, in the pipeline for this area as we continue to modernize the platform for new applications going forward. One of our big announcements was Cloud Foundry, which is an open source platform as a service. This is a VMware cloud that we're providing to developers. Right now it's in beta and it's free use. Developer can come in there and develop based on the frameworks that we support, and all the application services are there for them to go in and run their applications. And we're coming out with what we call a micro version of Cloud Foundry that is basically encapsulated in a VM and can be downloaded and run on a desktop. So a developer, a college student could download this VM, run it in Workstation, Fusion, or Player, and they could develop and test and run code there. They could also take that code and they could upload it to the Cloud Foundry site where they could run the application long-term. So again, very focused on providing application services. And then the great thing is because we abstract everything from the infrastructure and we abstract it from the operating environment, developers can take their applications and move them to any other cloud providers they wanted. And then the other space around application platform that we're very focused is around the data explosion. Right? Again, in the last 10 years, we have had a tremendous amount of data explosion. No one wants to get rid of data because it's all valuable, and everyone wants to be able to mine the data in real time, more and more efficiently. So we see it in financial services, we see it in the internet properties, and it's the aggregation of data as quickly as possible and in order to make decisions and respond. And so what we're doing here is we have built out a data virtualization layer, or a data grid, if you will. And with that data grid, we're helping customers go in and, in a sense, normalize data. Take data from multiple disparate locations, both internal, on-premise, and off-premise, and aggregate it together into a single fabric that applications can access data from. So one example is a online travel company. Again, no names, video. So one online travel company, there's actually two that are doing some pretty creative things here. One is leveraging this data fabric in order to provide better response time within their application, because they know that the faster they can go out and search for fares and hotels and deliver that to you, the better chance of you making a purchase and staying on the site. So response time is absolutely critical. If they have to go out and pull fare information from a third party, store it in a relational database, and they have to query on disk every time for your search from Charlotte to New York City, and someone else's search from Brazil to Spain, then the response time is very slow. So what they do is they'll go pull that information, store it in a database, and then they'll aggregate it into the fabric, which is an in-memory fabric that's clustered and distributed, so that a user in Spain can access a website in Spain with the data cache in Spain, so they get great response time on their fare searches, right? Others are using it to aggregate data to go out and create marketing and advertising, as well as aggregate financial data to make intelligent decisions around whether we purchase a stock or we buy gold or what have you. So there's lots of tremendous value in building out this data fabric and leveraging it to drive better response time in applications, but also create a single interface for applications to communicate with data versus trying to pull data from a mainframe, a SQL database, an Oracle database, again, third-party repositories. So imagine, if you will, you're trying to create you're a travel site, and you're trying to create a confirmation sheet, right, for a user. They purchased an airfare, they purchased a hotel and a rental car, and you want to give them a map of the airport that they're going to be going to. You also want to get some local restaurants that maybe you have some coupons to, and you want to put all this together in real time. You have to aggregate information from, a MapQuest or a Google to grab web information. You got their personalized information. You're looking at their trends of what types of hotels they stay at, what types of food they like to eat, and you're trying to aggregate all that information very quickly into an email and send it out to them in a matter of seconds. And in order to aggregate that data, putting it into a data grid is very efficient and effective. And again, if nodes of the grid fall, it's all clustered, so you continue to reroute the transactions to different nodes within the cluster. So where to start on application modernization? Right? The first piece is to look at current applications that are in physical environments and look at moving them to virtual environments. The next piece is looking at the architecture of applications and looking at how you can leverage the VMware platform to get better scale within the architecture of the application. So we see a lot of Java apps on Unix that we're migrating over to x86 on Linux, leveraging the vFabric platform as the underlying runtime. Other areas are, again, building out a platform as a service for a development team so they can quickly develop new applications. They can even modernize old applications. And then, of course, to optimize apps, aggregating that data into a data grid. So the last piece is really evolving the infrastructure, and I saved the best for last. This is probably the most important to everyone here. And this is really around cloud computing. So again, cloud computing, we've been doing this for a long time. We've had service catalogs for a long time. It's not new. It's just new to the masses and how to do it. And so the first piece is, again, to virtualize the infrastructure. And everyone's done that, right? You've got a virtual infrastructure, you've got servers, you've got network, storage, security, all together into a virtual infrastructure. One of the things that we see most customers haven't done in that virtual infrastructure is they're still leveraging physical security. They haven't completely virtualized the storage and the network aspects of it either. And what I mean by that is in a cloud architecture, we abstract both compute resources, network configuration, storage configuration, and security configuration into the logical layer, out of the physical layer. So you're putting that into the virtual environment, and then you're putting policies around the storage, the network, and the security, and of course the applications that you're going to deploy in the environment, and you're managing based on those policies. So in a sense, we're creating resource pools that are completely independent from the physical hardware. So if a network port fails or a switch fails, it doesn't bring down a bunch of applications. If you map today and you say, hey, these 70 virtual machines, if that switch fails, these 70 virtual machines are unavailable, then it tells us we have dependencies in the physical layer, and we have not completely abstracted the architecture from the physical layer into a logical layer. So that's where we're going with cloud computing. Those are the things that Mike DiPetrello, who I mentioned earlier, can really help provide you architecture guidance around, is how do we get a virtual infrastructure all the way to a truly cloud infrastructure? And abstracting the physical architecture and represent it to a logical architecture so that any application is serviceable, regardless of physical failure, that's cloud. Now the next piece on top of that is thinking through from the end user. The value of being able to have that logical architecture is now you can give the consumption of IT back to the lines of business, right? And I know there's probably several lines of business in the room today that have IT departments and manage their own servers and their own infrastructure. But the reality is they don't want to manage their own servers and their own infrastructure. They only do it because they have to today. What they're really focused on is the applications and what they can achieve from a business perspective from the applications. So they don't want to worry about the compute. They want the compute just to be there and be reliable, just like power in this room, right? Where we can plug a device in and it just works. So in order to build that, we've got to build that logical representation, and then we have to have management on top of that logical representation that allows us to create, in a sense, virtual data centers or pools of compute capacity that we can then provide out to these lines of business. And they now become a tenant in our cloud. So what we're doing by giving them a pool of compute capacity back to a line of business, it's like giving, a 20 amp breaker to this room, right? And now that's the capacity in this room that they can use. That line of business now has a pool of capacity that they can use for whatever applications they want to put into that pool of capacity. And then on top of that, in order for them to interface with their compute resources, with that virtual data center you're providing them, and the applications that you provide, you need a service catalog. So you need an entry point. So providing a portal to the line of business with a service catalog, or now the new term app store, right? There was a catalog of books, then it became a bookstore, and then all of a sudden we started with different types of content, such as digital content. We have the music store, and now we have the app store, right? So again, it's the same concept as in 1994 when there was a set of books that were listed in a catalog online, right? We took our catalogs, moved them online, now we call them stores. So again, you can provide an app store, which are confined environments for your line of business. We have a pharmaceutical that does it today. The app store they provide is FDA certified testing environments. So these cannot be changed when provisioned because the building of the environment had to go through a specific process. So that app store they provide to their lab technicians so they can go in and select from any of these FDA certified environments to rapidly provision them out. Now on top of that, they provide a catalog of different operating environments that they can custom build applications from and deploy applications. But when you work through a process of building a custom application through an online tool and a provisioning workflow, we also have to be able to build the policy around the network, around the storage, and around the security. And as it's logically deployed by the system into the environment, we have to be able to manage to that network storage and security policy and dynamically configure it. And that's why you have to have that logical representation of all the components of the system. Otherwise, fundamentally, you don't have a cloud. So what we do today is we provide that application store, that service catalog, provide the orchestration for provisioning, and ultimately the management of the infrastructure. So if you think about it, the infrastructure as a service is the application that's sitting on top of your infrastructure. And then the other core component is management of that application and the infrastructure and monitoring the system. So you have capacity management, you have billing into the application, right? You have performance management and monitoring. There is a session later on today, and I'll give a plug here, don't beat me up for it, but Martin Kloss, one of our product managers for VC operations, is here, and he's got a session later on today. There's also the booth out there. VC operations gives you that insight into the application and infrastructure. Tremendous tool, highly recommend you take a look at it with Martin. And the reason being is because in this environment, if you look into it, if you're shielding the infrastructure from the application, things just got more complex. The infrastructure is now a black box. I used to have this server in this rack with Windows on it, and that was my Exchange server. It was my Exchange server forever until we upgrade. And I buy a new server and I put Windows on it and I put Exchange on it. Now, you can't point to a server in the data center and say, that's my application server, right? Because the infrastructure becomes that black box. So having the intelligence of operations to be able to predictively see where there's bottlenecks, see where there's potential concerns within the application. Learning the application behavior and then being able to call those out is extremely important. VCOps does that for you. We just ran a test with one of our customers, and they were testing their current monitoring tools against VCOps. And in one scenario, and it was testing physical infrastructure, a quality of service on a switch port, VCOps found the issue, identified it, and alerted 3 hours before the traditional tool. So imagine what 3 hours does in quality of service on a network. And then, of course, where we're going with this is really focused around providing you the ability to then decide in your strategy what makes sense for us to manage on-premise, what could we move off-premise, and what do we want to just decommission and go with SaaS applications. But we only want to go with SaaS applications where we have that true security and identity management. So we don't have any of those issues that are cropping up today, and we're not increasing our help desk tickets, et cetera. So we have a decision to make on SaaS applications we go forward with. What applications does it make sense and for the company we want to run locally, and then what can we farm out to an off-premise cloud. And so what VMware is very focused on here is stitching those together so that you can have the choice, you can look at costs of operations and make decisions on, hey, you know what, we're running out of capacity here and we want to go fund these 3 other things. Instead of going buying more capacity, I want to move these 2 workloads off-premise where I can get a good return on the dollar while we build out and test these new projects. I don't want to go invest in the infrastructure for these new projects because ultimately we may only go forward with one of these 3 projects anyways. So why don't I move some things off-premise while I test these projects before expanding my own cloud. The value here is being able to quickly move applications across environments, have, in a sense, a stretch cluster between your own environments and third-party services. So in closing, right, ultimately, the call to action I have for you is to spend time with your VMware partners, and we got a few of them in the room here. And again, together, we can absolutely help you in these 3 areas. And I believe there's more to come. So I'd love for you to spend time with us around your desktop strategy, around your challenges around end-user computing, around application modernization and optimization, deploying new apps, and of course around your thoughts around building cloud and what you're trying to accomplish, so that we can bring the knowledge we have over the past 10 years and help you be successful. So with that, enjoy the rest of the conference, and I appreciate you for your time. Thanks.